Bosoming Bosom by James M. Morris. Before the tardy bell rang at Dripping Springs Elementary and High School, I walked into the restroom with my best friend and sixth grade classmate, Buck, and hurriedly confirmed we were alone by checking each stall. Sensitive information was about to be explored. Buck and I had grown up together, robbing banks, chasing Indians, and assaulting bad men in the pastures and creeks in the small ranching community in the rolling plains of West Texas. In the year 1961, our class boasted 12 kids, including us, most of whom had been together all 5+ years. One girl in our class, Dora, was as tough and strong as any boy at that stage, and you didn't mess with Dora. Almost breathless, I asked Buck, "Have you seen Dora this morning?" "Have I? How could anyone miss 'em? I hope she don't try to bend over. She'll land on her nose," I responded sarcastically. "Her boobs didn't bud. They busted into full bloom overnight. But how did that happen?" Buck responded authoritatively, "She's gotta have falsies. She didn't have those Friday. I bet she emptied somebody's sock drawer. Hers are nearly as big as Miss Gibson's, the band director. Yeah, and she is huge. She can't walk through a door sideways. Her arms are too short to powder her own nipples," I said mockingly. And then Buck's tone got serious. "Does it seem like Dora's trying to insult our intelligence? That she can go from tiny to huge overnight? It just ain't normal. Seems like we have a duty to make fun of her, or something." Well, I agreed. "The problem is, this just ain't any old girl, Buck. This is Dora. I'm not sure I can outrun her." Well, we pondered the question, and then I said, "We could put a pin in it, a straight pin with a big red ball on the end. She'd never know it. And she would walk down the hall." Was that somebody? "She would walk down the hall all proud with her chest stuck out until somebody pointed it out, and then she would see it and go ballistic. That'd be hilarious, wouldn't it?" The Dripping Springs Elementary and High School was, and still is, a long, narrow, one-story brick, rectangle-shaped building with short U-shaped extensions at each end. The main entrance is in the middle, with the elementary school on the right side and the high school on the left side. The superintendent's office is the first door on the left as you enter the building. The trophy case lines the opposite wall. The gymnasium is directly behind the wall you face when you enter the building. So the next day, the evil plot was successfully executed. An accidental bump into Dora distracted her long enough for me to insert the pin with a bright red head on it into her right breast as she exited homeroom on her way down the hall to attend band practice. The band hall was a separate building, north of the high school wing, which required Dora to walk the entire length of the high school hall. She hadn't made it halfway down the hall when I, with Buck peeking over my shoulder, heard raucous laughter and a scream from Dora as the pin was spotted and Dora was unflatteringly notified. Buck and I ducked back into our classroom, but not before Dora spied us and gave us a look that could frighten a 1,000-pound gorilla. She vanished among the kids changing class, and all was quiet. We don't know what happened to her the rest of that day. But the next morning, Dora entered the classroom cocked and primed. She was madder than a mama cow protecting her new calf, madder than a bull looking for a good fight, and madder than a spring twister looking for the ground, all rolled up into one fierce package. Finding us, she unleashed a verbal assault unparalleled in adolescent history. But her breasts had miraculously reduced to their prior size, which made them hardly noticeable. But at that moment, we were not focused on them. We were focused on surviving the verbal assault and hoping it did not go to the next level and get physical. But it finally ended, and my ego kicked in, and I stupidly, oh, ever so stupidly, and sarcastically poked that raging tiger by saying, "What are you gonna do? Tell on us? Who you gonna tell, Dora? What are you gonna say? Some boys made fun of my falsies?" Whoa, that made Dora even more furious. She was so mad she could only muster, "You'll see," as she stomped off. Buck was rightfully somewhat troubled by how upset she was and worried about what she might do. He was in on the plot, but he did not stick the pin in and probably would not have done it. But I was confident her threats were merely bluffs and there was nothing she could or would do. Besides, I argued, she can't prove we did it. Buck replied, "She won't have to, James. Everybody knows it was us. Who else would it be? Hey, with our record, we are presumed guilty, 'cause we normally are." The next day after lunch, and before the first class period of the afternoon, Crystal, the superintendent's work-study student, broadcast an announcement to the entire school. "James and Buck are to report to the superintendent's office immediately." We froze in our seats. Our skin turned pale, and we stopped breathing until our teacher said, "James, Buck, did you hear the announcement? Get up right now and go directly to the superintendent's office right now." All manner of bravery had evaporated from us, and Buck gave me an "I told you so" look. He could see fear in my eyes, and I saw it in his. All bravado was gone. We slowly, ever so slowly, walked down that lonesome, sterile, gray hallway to the superintendent's office. Good things did not happen to students in this place. It was the home of the red and white peppermint stick, or paddle, with holes drilled in it to reduce wind friction and allow maximum speed. The sound of its impact was notorious. Coach Maxwell was the muscle behind it that created its fearsome and dreaded image. We knew full well we could be walking to our execution. Even more troubling was what our fathers would do when we got home. Deep down, we still clung to the belief that it would go down in history of this school as one of the better pranks. But first, we had to survive it. We were not sure of the outcome. We finally arrived at the entrance to the superintendent's office and paused. Crystal, the student work-study senior, greeted us with a cheery, sly grin. Buck and I looked at Crystal, and a sense of déjà vu came over us. Sitting at her desk, nestled in the small anteroom to the superintendent's office, which had previously been used as a small waiting room, was the poster girl for full-figured, curvy women. She would give Miss Gibson a run for her money in the mammary department. She greeted us. "Welcome to the office, boys. Mr. Tucker's on the phone." And then she said, "I heard about the commotion Dora caused yesterday in the hallway." Before we could sit down, she said, "He is ready for you now. Have a seat in those 2 chairs on the wall facing his desk." We stepped inside the office and meekly took our seats facing Mr. Tucker's desk. Our seats were situated so we could see Mr. Tucker and Crystal. Crystal could see us, but not Mr. Tucker. Mr. Tucker could see us, but not Crystal. Mr. Tucker was a proper person in his 60s, with short, salt and pepper hair, horn-rimmed glasses, and a stoic demeanor. But he was not at ease with modern fashions, trends, expressions, and youth culture. Even so, he attempted to address us directly by saying, "Now, boys, Dora's grandpa, Bill, he's the president of the school board. He called me and said that Dora told him you put a pin in her, Then he paused, searching for words appropriate to talk about inappropriate parts of the female anatomy, things and parts that were not supposed to be talked about. Unable to find a proper description caused him to falter, and he resorted to gesturing with his hands held as cups in front of his chest as he continued, making fun of her natural female development as he continued to strain, even though he looked directly at us and began to sweat profusely. Is that true, James? I realized that I had made a very serious miscalculation. I had forgotten that Dora's grandpa was on the school board. I knew denial would put Buck in an untenable and undeserved position, since I came up with the plan and I inserted the pin. I could not do that to my best friend, so I meekly responded, "Yes, sir." "Well, and her grandpa was pretty upset when you mocked her by questioning her ability to seek recourse against your childish conduct." Continuing, he said as his face grew red, "Now, boys, you know that about this age girls begin to develop, again gesturing with his hands, just they begin to develop certain normal anatomical body parts. And that's not something you should make fun of. Those parts will come in very handy for them later in life. It's all a part of Mother Nature's plan. But when those things happen, these young girls are proud of their new, more gesturing as his face grew even redder. They're proud of their new body parts, and you shouldn't make fun of them, whether they are real or fake." Well, by now, Mr. Tucker was clearly in pain, trying to explain this delicate subject without referencing human reproduction and sexual anatomical features unique to each developing sex as concealed in mystery during his generation and not yet released into the general educational system. While this lecture was in progress, we looked at each other, Buck and I. Then we looked at Crystal in her tight sweater, and she looked at us, and there was absolutely nothing she could do to reduce the size of or otherwise hide the size, scope, and breadth of her breast, and somehow disconnect them from the gestures of the superintendent. Crystal's face turned every shade of red, and she tried to look away, but there was no escape. And, of course, the superintendent was oblivious to what was happening visually between Crystal and us, as he struggled to find a way to talk about the female breast and its development without saying breast, tit, mammary, boobs, or using any words to accurately identify the subject matter of his lecture. I'm quite sure that Crystal and Mr. Tucker were surprised at what happened next. But from our perspective, seeing Crystal's unique physique, together with her reaction to Mr. Tucker's inept description of our sinful behavior, juxtaposed against Mr. Tucker's glowing red, sweaty-faced hand gestures and painful search for words, was seriously funny. Neither of us could suppress our laughter, though we both made noble efforts to do so. That, of course, changed the mood of Mr. Tucker instantly. To say he was distraught by our being amused at his lecture is a gross understatement. He forthwith pounded the table while delivering a short but powerful lecture that could be heard up and down both hallways. And it came as no surprise when Coach Maxwell arrived, closed the door to the office, and 3 powerful slaps of the peppermint stick could be heard being administered to the posterior of our behinds. As we walked back down the gray hallway to our classroom, I said, "Buck, I'm really sorry I got you into this mess. Are we still friends?" As he rubbed his butt, Buck replied, "Yeah, James, we didn't get busted 'cause of the pin in the boob. We got busted for laughing during the lecture. But I gotta tell you, seeing Crystal's big bosom and red face right next to Tucker's exasperated expression, gestures, red face, and sweat, all trying to avoid saying the word breast, was downright funny. I don't care what nobody says. As soon as my butt quits stinging, I'll say it was worth it." We wrapped our arms around each other and proudly walked to our room. Thank you. The end.